Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Dr. John Vile of Middle Tennessee State University, political science professor and dean of the Honors College. We're talking the presidential election, which election day is actually just about 7 weeks away. Dr. Vile, I noticed a striking change in looking on Real Clear Politics this week. They put up the betting odds from a number of different betting houses. There was a toss-up 50-50 last week, but early this week, suddenly Biden was up 7 points in the betting odds. Do the smart boys and girls know something the rest of us don't? Are they seeing something in the race that maybe not everybody is fully aware of they're seeing at this point?
You may put my research in a whole different direction. That's not usually a site that I consult for politics, but it's interesting.
Well, this is on Real Clear
I think
Politics.
the closer.
This is on Real Clear Politics. I don't go to the betting site itself, but they have some odds for several.
Well, no, it sounds like it could be useful. I think the closer you get to the election, and the longer the apparent lead in the polls lasts, the greater, the smart money is going to be on Biden. But, Hillary Clinton was a hit, and as you say, actually won the popular vote in the last election and still managed to squeak by the Electoral College. So these polls that you've mentioned in the individual states are probably going to be much more important. One of the factors that seems to be playing a role that one would probably not have expected is that the Trump candidacy seems to have largely run through $300 million on the campaign so far without a lot of apparent success. And so it'll be interesting to see, one sign of how much, whether Trump thinks that he can win or not, is going to be, is he willing to put down another $50 or $100 million of his own, or is he just going to, leave it to others?
Are you surprised that the president's burned through that much cash and money? After all, he started raising money for his reelection about the day after he was sworn into office back in 2017.
It is a little surprising. I think, I don't know. I don't know if it was spent with the thought that a lot more was going to be coming in. A lot of the experts on this think that they spent a lot of the money too soon. That people, it's often after Labor Day before people really begin looking with intensity at the election, and most of the money is gone. Again, Trump has pretty deep pockets, so it's something that he could remedy if he chose to do so.
I found another interesting poll on Thursday that came out in the battleground states. It basically asked the people, did they think either candidate was physically fit to be president? The voters said narrowly that they did. They also asked the question again in the battleground states, did they think the candidates were mentally fit to be president? In both cases, narrowly by like 51 to 49% margins, the voters said they didn't think either candidate was mentally fit to be president. Battleground states are going to play an outsized impact on this race. Is a poll like that disturbing for both candidates? Are we going to see more people talking about the other side not being mentally competent to be president?
Well, both candidates are extremely old to be running for president. That's a concern. One of the most concerning things in this book by Woodward, Rage, is that one of his generals is going every day to a local church praying that apparently that Trump isn't going to get us involved in a nuclear war. And when you read, if that in fact happened, and I have no reason to believe that it didn't, if his top generals are concerned about whether there's competency there. Apparently, there were even, questions as to whether we should invoke the 25th Amendment on presidential competency. The other thing, of course, is we still don't know exactly what the cause was that the president went to Walter Reed Hospital, where they gave him the quiz that he's been touting about, his intellectual acumen.
The president has raised the issue that Joe Biden is not mentally competent, calling him Sleepy Joe. Do you see that perhaps coming out again from the president, to use that as a way to sort of get back in the race and get back on the offensive?
This is where the presidential debates will probably make a difference. The high point, I think, at the Democratic convention was, in fact, Biden's speech, where he came across much more energetic, much more vigorous than he was expected. And you see sort of the same thing happening right now. Pelosi apparently advising Biden that, he's ahead, maybe you ought to just skip the debates. And if he in fact does very well in the debates, he's set it up perfectly because he's lowered the expectations, whereas you sort of expect that Donald Trump is going to come in and dominate the debate. Much as one of the reasons that he's president now is he's in the field of 12 or 14 and managed to be the person that even in the debate he didn't participate in, he seemed to be the topic of discussion.
The voter polls indicate that they think President Trump is going to win the debates. Does that put more pressure on the president to shine? I mean, if you're supposed to win, you're the one that's got the heat on you going in, right?
That's right. In other words, it's much like the early primaries. You hardly. Sometimes you hear a candidate saying, "I'm going to come in first in the Iowa caucuses or first in the New Hampshire primaries." But typically they'll say, if I make the top, if they think they're going to come in first or second, they'll tell you if they make the top 5, they're lucky. They're not from this area of the country, and this is against them and that is against them. I don't know if it's conscious or not, but Biden seems to be playing the expectation game very well. Now, if it simply is confirmed in the debate and Trump sort of whips him, then probably doesn't matter much. A lot of discussion. I think the odds, if the odds seem to be for Trump in the presidential debate, most odds makers are saying that the debate is probably going to be for Harris in the vice presidential debate. So that might be a little bit more interesting to watch than such debates typically are.
Dr. John Weil, Middle Tennessee State University, is our guest. We're talking about the upcoming presidential election coming up next, about 7 weeks away. Back to continue our conversation after this break.